Arguments are over. Question time is about to begin. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he doesn't have the votes to end impeachment. Away we go. This is Verdict with Ted Cruz. Welcome back to Verdict with Ted Cruz. I'm Michael Knowles. Senator, before we get started, I am seeing reports on Twitter, I want to hear it straight from you, that Mitch McConnell called the senators into a room and said he does not have the votes to stop witnesses. He does not have the votes to end impeachment.
Well, I think those reports overstated a little bit. The votes are up in the air. It's not clear where the votes are, but it is absolutely true. We finished opening arguments today, finished it relatively early, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And afterwards, all the Republicans went back to a conference room to talk about, okay, what next? And the next 2 days are questions, but then on Friday is the vote. And it's the vote on whether to hear additional witnesses. And by the way, that word additional is important. The media, when they report it, keep describing it as the vote whether or not to hear witnesses.
Right.
But it's worth noting the House heard testimony from 17 witnesses. And they played that testimony for us. They relied on those documents. They laid it forward. So the question is any additional evidence or any additional witnesses necessary? That is a close question. I don't know where the votes are. All 47 Democrats are going to vote yes. So the question is, are there going to be 4 Republicans to join them? There could be. It is close. And so this was a meeting, and we have these periodically. Where leadership kind of brings the conference together and is trying to whip everyone and get everyone in line. I have to admit afterwards, Mike Lee and I were laughing because we've been to a bunch of those meetings. And usually it's leadership unloading on the conservatives. Mike and I are used to being the bad guys and being like, just they're pounding on us going, why are you guys like causing trouble? In this instance, it was actually leadership trying to, the folks that are threatening to vote with the Democrats are the more moderate Republicans. And so it was very much an effort designed to bring them along.
That must have felt nice to be the good guy in one of these conference meetings.
Yeah, nice, although a little terrifying. But look, I think there were a lot of good arguments that were made. The folks who are wobbly, the folks who haven't made up their mind where they're going to be, they were essentially quiet.
So these are the people that you call the rhinos, the squishes. Those are the mean terms.
Look, I'm not going to throw any epithets.
Right.
But listen, I think as a constitutional matter, as a legal matter, this is a very easy decision. The House managers haven't proven their case. They have the burden of proof. They have a burden of proof to prove the president committed high crimes or misdemeanors. And they haven't done that.
And in terms of the structure here, the reason that this meeting is crucial now is you had the House Democrats make their arguments for impeachment. They got their time to do that. Then the Trump team got its time to defend the president against impeachment. Now, over the next couple days, we're heading into question time. That is when the senators get to ask questions of the two legal teams.
Right.
So this is the moment now where everybody's got to sort of circle the wagons and get the strategy together.
Well, and in this huddle, a bunch of us stood up and had different things to say. So I stood up and I tried to present 3 arguments to the conference as to why we should say we've heard enough, we don't need additional witnesses. The first I said is, look, as we've seen from the New York Times with this John Bolton stuff, there's going to be a bombshell a day. This is the game they're going to play. There's going to be a bombshell tomorrow. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be something. And they're going to do it again the next day. And I relayed, look, this is what the game they played during the Kavanaugh hearings, where they held all the accusations till the end, and then they rolled out one after the other after the other. And I said, look, the media wants to browbeat Republicans into extending this. So that was my first point. My second point is, listen, the Democrats, they haven't proven their case. They're losing right now. So their game is just delay. They just want to delay this, keep it going as long as possible, and engage in a fishing expedition. So bring in another witness. Maybe they'll get something from a witness, but just extend it out. And in particular, Chuck Schumer has not been subtle about trying to put Senate Republicans in purple states who are up for re-election in a hard position where whatever they vote, it's interesting. Schumer actually doesn't care, I think, how the purple state Republicans vote. Because if they vote against the president on any witness question, That'll demoralize their base and make it easier to beat them. On the other hand, if they vote with the president on all the questions, then that'll let, in a purple state that may not be
solidly Republican,
that then gives an opening for the Democrats who are running against them to attack them. And interestingly enough, a number of the folks there described how their Democratic opponents were staying silent on impeachment. That it's clear Schumer sent out the word, just stay out of impeachment, and we'll drag it on. But the third point I made, and this is an important point that on the question of do we need additional witnesses, most of that's focused on John Bolton. There's a point that there's been so much talking and yabbering it gets lost, and it's really important, which is in the House, John Bolton went to a district court, and he said he was willing to testify, and he asked a district judge, what should I do? Because the White House has told me not to, the House wants me to. And the House of Representatives affirmatively went to the district court in writing and said, we don't need John Bolton.
They withdrew their request. It wasn't a big deal. They already got 17 other people to testify.
Never subpoenaed him, and they withdrew their request. They said, we're not asking for him. And so I pointed out, I said, look, I understand for senators, they're agonizing, and the media will beat up on you and say, don't you really want to be fair and call him? If they wanted to call John Bolton, they could have tried, and they decided they didn't need his testimony. This is not about John Bolton or any one witness. This is about delay it and engage in a fishing expedition.
Now, you said that right now the Democrats are losing. Do you mean they're losing in terms of the arguments they're making? Do you mean they're losing politically because they do not have the votes to remove the president? What's the relationship between the two?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Look, on substance, they haven't proven their case. In interest, I think a lot of the American people have checked out.
Yes.
I got to admit, like today, the number of if it weren't the middle of the afternoon, I'm not sure half the Senate wouldn't have been napping at their desks. This has gone on already a long time.
Yeah.
And there's no there. It was interesting, Michael. I was thinking. So we've heard both sides opening. We've heard 24 hours was allocated to each. Mm-hmm. And after hearing it, I was thinking, all right, well, what are the main arguments the Democrats had of what did the president do wrong?
Right. So 24 hours into, a few bullet points.
Yeah. And as I can see it, there are five big things that the Democrats say the president did wrong. Here's the crazy irony. Every single one of them, it is objectively true the Democrats have done worse. So let's go through them one at a time. Sure. So one thing they say the president did wrong was delay aid to Ukraine. So they've talked a lot about that. And so they had, all these moments of, people are dying in Ukraine and it's terrible. Mm-hmm. Well, what is undisputed, yes, the president paused aid to Ukraine. But what is undisputed is that Barack Obama never gave lethal military aid, defensive weapons, to Ukraine.
But we're all told in the news, I've seen in the news, that Obama gave aid to Ukraine.
Obama gave blankets and MREs, meals. And in fact, look, I was sitting on the House floor when President Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, came and addressed us. And he said explicitly, blankets are fine, but you can't stop a Russian tank with a blanket.
So what you're saying, though, is that the Obama administration did not give lethal aid, meaning aid they could use in the aggression against Russia, but the Trump administration did give
The Trump administration gave Javelin missiles, which can take out a Russian tank. So you want to talk about, all right, bad thing number one, delaying military aid to Ukraine. On any measure, Obama not even a little bit, much, much worse than Trump. Trump has been much stronger on Ukraine. How about number two, quid pro quo? Lots of discussion about quid pro quo. Yeah. On the president, there's conflicting witness testimony. There's testimony on both sides. But you know what there isn't conflicting testimony on? Joe Biden. Joe Biden admitted a quid pro quo, and a much more serious quid pro quo, what I've been calling the son of a bitch clip, where he said...
We played it the other night on the show.
We did, where he said, he threatened Ukraine, he'd cut off $1 billion in aid unless they fired the prosecutor investigating Burisma, the natural gas company paying his son at least $1 million a year.
So what President Trump might have considered doing, but didn't actually do in the end.
Did or didn't do, and it doesn't matter. Whether there was a quid pro quo for Trump doesn't matter legally. But if they think quid pro quos are bad, they have Joe Biden admitting it.
Right.
And being proud of the quid pro quo unequivocally.
Okay.
And a much more serious quid pro quo. Mm-hmm. All right, how about number 3, the cover-up? That's a word the Democrats have said over and over again. Cover up, cover up, cover up, because the White House asserted executive privilege. Well, you know what there has been a cover-up of? All of the evidence on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma.
Right.
The House blocked all those witnesses. They didn't want to hear any of it. They didn't talk about it at all. You didn't. I mean, and they keep saying Trump couldn't even investigate. They want to cover this up because look, Joe Biden is their front runner. They don't want the evidence that and it's important to note this is not about Hunter Biden corruption. This is about whether Joe Biden, the vice president, was involved in corruption. But number 4, investigate the rival. That's another thing.
That's
okay,
right.
So he was trying to investigate his political rival. All right, so let me get this straight. You're saying it's inappropriate, it's wrong to want to investigate your political rival. Well, you know who did that? A guy named Barack Obama.
In 2016.
Who launched a major investigation of Donald Trump, sent in spies, put wiretaps on the Trump campaign, had the FBI and DOJ lying and fabricating evidence, as the Inspector General laid out. So if you're saying, I just would like for a Democrat, okay, so you're saying it's wrong to investigate your political rival, like Barack Obama did.
Because, by the way, regardless of how Democrats would justify the Obama administration spying on the Trump campaign, we know that it happened. We know that occurred. So regardless of how you could justify or attack President Trump's asking for an investigation in Ukraine, the same principle holds.
On any measure, Obama did it more than Trump. On any measure, like if you put them side by side, who did more to investigate their rival?
No question.
It's not, gosh, it's kind of close. It's kind of a little bit. It's Trump said, how come no one's investigating this thing? Look, Joe's bragging about firing the prosecutor. I mean, that was it. And by all appearances, Ukraine didn't do anything. With Obama, they got wiretaps and did an investigation. They went all in. And then number 5, cheating on an election. So that's the big, it's interesting. I bet you the Democrats have focus grouped this.
Yeah.
Because cheat's a very simple word. It's a word people can understand.
You know it since the first grade. You know what
and
cheat
they
means.
talk about that's what Trump was trying to do is cheat. Well, the irony is, what is this impeachment all about? It's about wanting to cheat on the 2020 election because the Democrats have been real candid. If they think if the American people have the chance to vote for President Trump, they will. So this is all about get him off the ballot. So if you're just assessing who's trying to cheat to win an election, abusing the Constitution to try to impeach a president because you're afraid the voters will re-elect him, that is election fraud cheating at the highest level. And so all 5 of the things they say the president did wrong, I don't think the president did wrong. But if those things are wrong, I don't know how you can coherently argue anything other than the Democrats are much, much worse on all 5.
And on that 5th point, on the cheating point, the Democrats have actually been consistent on this. You heard Adam Schiff, the House impeachment manager, the other day. He said, we can't let this go to the ballot box in November because we're probably going to lose. And you had Democratic Representative Al Green in 2017 say, we need to impeach this president because if we don't, I fear he may be reelected.
Look, you remember freshman Representative Tlaib coming in to be sworn in was caught on video screaming, we're going to impeach the MFer. Although she didn't abbreviate it. That's literally like coming in what she promised to do.
So then, as you say, it's pretty clear, I think, for any of the 10 Americans who have been watching all of these endless impeachment hearings, and for the many, many Americans who are listening to this show, it seems pretty clear how the arguments stand.
So there is actually one guy locked in a grain silo with clips on his windows, on his eyelids, and it's like a Clockwork Orange. Somewhere someone is playing every moment of this impeachment trial, and it's just probably scientist experiment.
And it is cruel and unusual punishment without question.
Yes.
Is there a chance, though, because it is clear, that you will see any Democrats break from their party and vote to acquit the president in this trial?
So I think there is a chance. I think the most likely would be a Joe Manchin.
Okay.
Democrat from West Virginia. Remember, he voted for Brett Kavanaugh. That probably got him reelected.
What about Dianne Feinstein from California, who just reports were coming out that she may acquit?
Look, who knows? There was L.A. Times reported that today, but then she issued a hasty retraction.
Right.
Look, I think